So I'll tell you a bit about myself, but I wanted to first learn a little bit about you guys to see who I'm talking to. So by a show of hands, how many of you have a blog? Most of you. All right. How many of you blog regularly, like once a week, twice a week, or more? Okay, cool. How many of you have been blogging for at least a year? Oh, wow. That's great. So I'm talking to some serious bloggers then. How many of you blog full-time? All right. How many of you want to blog full-time? Oh, cool. Okay, so not all of you, but some of you do. I am a full-time blogger. I have been for about more than 3 years now. And I'm not a professional speaker, but I've learned a few things in my 4 years of blogging. And I thought I'd just share some of those things with you and then open it up for questions at the end. So whatever you guys want to know, I'll answer the questions at the end. But first I'm going to just tell you a couple stories with some lessons at the end of them. So the first one is a little bit about me. I started blogging in January 2007 from the tiny island of Guam, which is out in the Pacific, a US territory. And just to tell you a little bit about Guam and blogging, when I was there was exactly one full-time blogger. And when I moved from Guam to San Francisco last summer, the number dropped down to 0. Besides, yeah, I mean, there was also exactly one person who was published by a real publisher, a book publisher. And when I left, that went down to 0 as well. So there's maybe a couple other bloggers, but I was pretty isolated out there. But if I could do it from Guam, where there's basically no other bloggers and not much else going on in the tech world or media world or publishing world, you guys, I think, have a great environment with all of this, great support and socializing. That's amazing. So I started on Guam, and I started a blog called Zen Habits, and I had maybe 2 readers in the beginning, my mom and my wife. And I've grown a little bit beyond that. In the first couple months, it really took off pretty quickly. I got up to, I don't know what it was, maybe a couple hundred readers. And the feedback was so immensely positive that when I started, I basically had no goal, no intent to become a full-time blogger, but I realized that maybe it was something that I could do for a living. And I was working in a dead-end government job at the time, and I didn't like it, but it paid the bills. And I thought, you know what, maybe blogging could pay the bills. It was so much fun, and I was really passionate about it, and I got such a great response that it was really rewarding. So I made that my goal for the year. This is early in 2007. And by the end of 2007, I had gotten up to 26,000 readers or subscribers. I got a book deal with a publisher in New York, and I had sold my first ebook, and that did so well that it paid off my debts. And I quit my day job in January 2008. And so I jumped up for joy when that happened. So it was amazing. And so I haven't looked back since. I've been a full-time blogger. Now like Andy said, I have 200,000 readers. And I did that from Guam with 6 kids. And so the main point of that story was to share that it's possible. If you do want to become a full-time blogger, you don't need to have a big name in the media world or the blogging world. I didn't. No one knew who I was besides my mom and my wife. You don't need to be in the middle of this amazing city, although I think it does help. I did it from Guam. And if you have no time for blogging because you have a full-time job, I had a full-time job. I was also a freelancer on the side, and I had 6 kids, so you guys have no excuse. So that's the first story. But how did it become a full-time job? And I think that's probably the question that most of you might have. So to do that, to share that with you guys, I need to kind of back up a little bit. So before 2007, the year 2006 and a little bit into 2005 was a year of incredible personal change for me. When I first started, this was in 2005, I was overweight. I was about 65 pounds heavier than I am now. I was a smoker. I was unhealthy, addicted to junk food. I was deeply in debt and really broke. I was really unhappy with my life. I was overworked, really stressed out, and I wanted to change, but I didn't know how to do it. I was overwhelmed by just the idea of changing. So I started with quitting smoking. And I had tried 7 times before that, and I failed each time. And so I really put a lot of research into changing habits. Can everyone hear me? I don't know if it's coming through things. Okay, so I did a lot of research, and I was able to successfully quit smoking. And I decided to try and apply the same principles of changing habits to running was the next thing I did. And then that worked, and I tried waking earlier, I tried eating healthier. I changed a whole bunch of habits, from productivity to, simplifying my life, to eliminating my debt, and all of that stuff. And so a year later, I ran a marathon. So the end of 2006, I ran a marathon. I was a lot lighter, I had lost a lot of weight, and I was a lot healthier, and I felt great about myself. And so I started Zen Habits as a way to journal the things that I've been learning and share that with others, and maybe get some feedback from other people who are interested in the same kinds of things. And that's what it was in the beginning, and in fact it still is that, but it's grown into a lot more than that. So that story of my transformation, my personal growth, and what I learned, and how I was able to change myself, that was the center of the blog. That was what inspired people to read the blog. And so the lesson there is, actually I wrote it up called My Story. And if you Google the words My Story, I think it might be the first or second result in Google. And so that my story was a way to inspire people. And it was a way for them to say, you know what, this guy has something to say. And something worth listening to. Something worth subscribing to. And so I realized that early on, that story was something that people were drawn to. And I didn't realize that when I first started, but it became apparent as people were responding to it, and gave me a lot of comments about it. And it was amazing how powerful that was. I had no idea that story would be interesting to anyone. So it turned out it was. And so the lesson there is that your story is what draws people to your blog, what inspires them to read you, what gives you credibility, and what makes people, want to subscribe to your blog. So the story, it doesn't have to be, changing your life like I do. It has to be just doing something interesting. And if you've already, many of you might not realize that you're doing that, but if you are doing that, you need to highlight that on your blog and make that the reason that people read you, is doing something amazing. And it could be traveling the world, it could be changing the world, or it could be just changing yourself. Simplifying your life like I did. And to me, simplifying your life in this crazy, complicated world is an amazing thing. And it turned out a lot of other people were kind of hungry for that too. And so simplifying my life became the amazing thing. Changing my habits became the amazing thing that people wanted to read about. So do something amazing and share that story with people. Inspire them, make them want to read your stuff. That's the next thing.